Hello, as always, we'll be delaying just a little bit as folks join in the meeting online. All right, I will call this meeting of the South Whidbey School District School Board to order. We'll begin with well, this says public comment, but I'm actually going to go to the land acknowledgement, which is how we usually start these meetings. So, Marnie?
Thank you, Brooke. Pardon me. South Whidbey School District would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral homelands, known as Chakolchi in Lushootseed, of the Coast Salish, Lower Skagit, Tulalip, Swinomish, and Suquamish, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial and have hunted, fished, and gathered here. We respect their care for these lands, their sovereignty, and their right to self-determination. And we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. I'm not looking at my computer screen, so I'm just going to wrap it up with recognition of the fact that we do share these lands through the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed in 1855 in Mukilteo, and that we speak out this land acknowledgement not just as a rote expression of our gratitude, but as an invitation to continued learning and growth in relationship with our tribal neighbors in this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now go back to public comment protocol. And this is just a reminder that since we are hybrid, we have folks watching from home and here in person. So during the public comment period, we will go to anyone who would like to sign up to speak here in person first. There's a sign-up sheet at the back of the room. And then we will move into the Q&A section from there. We have 5 minutes for speaking time in person and online both. And to keep things equitable between those who are here in person and those who are online, we'll read one comment from those who are online. If you wish to make several comments concurrently using the Q&A function, we'll read all of those together up to 5 minutes. If there's no complaint with it, we'll go with 30 minutes of public speaking time, public comment, if we have that long. And if it looks like we're short of that, I'll ask the board if they feel comfortable moving on. If you would like to use the Q&A function to ask a question, I encourage you to note your name and full name and location right now, just to serve as a sign-up sheet in a QA. This was a wonderful idea of Ann Johnson's. And then you'll have plenty of time to type your actual comment, but we'll know that you have something to say, and you'll have already included your name and location, so we won't have to worry about whether or not you have with the comment. Yeah, just a reminder that due to our policy number 1400, we do not tolerate uncivil discourse. We do tolerate complaints. We do tolerate negative statements in regards to actions that we've taken, but those complaints must be directed at actions, not at personally at, they cannot be personal attacks. You can attack an idea, but not a person. Thank you. We'll now move on to the agenda and minutes. Barring any complaint, we'll approve the agenda and minutes as presented. Okay, they have been approved as presented. And then I will turn it over to Dr. Moshe.
Thank you. It is always a favorite time of year, January, because it is actually the month that we get to recognize the volunteers who serve on our school board. And I just want to make sure that we take a moment and recognize that all of our school board members are volunteers. They are unpaid and they dedicate hours per week to this work. And we really appreciate all that they do. There is a school board recognition from the governor, a proclamation, and he proclaims January 2022 as School Board Recognition Month. You can read that proclamation in its entirety. I won't read it to you now. But what I will do is, on behalf of the South Whidbey School District, we have provided you all with tokens of our appreciation. There are t-shirts and masks and a mug and a pen and some other goodies. In addition to that, I want to introduce our 2 district teachers on special assignment who serve our technology needs as well as our libraries to come on up, because they have a very special presentation for each board member. Turn on that mic and use that, it'd be great.
I've done this before. Just don't
The
wanna drop it.
technology
I
get
don't want
to
to
you?
drop it. It's all
So
new
this is-
and
Val Brown and Sue Ann Brewer are our 2 esteemed TOSAs, so take it away.
so I just want everybody to know that I'm only here because I heard there was going to be cake. There's no cake. So, or pie. So this is we want to give you our deep appreciation for everything that you do. We respect and admire all of you so much, and so appreciate your willingness to step up and serve. And so one way that we thought we could honor you was by getting stuff for us. So in our libraries, there will be books placed that honor the work of each of you. So if you open the page, you'll see a book plate that is dedicated to you. So do you want to, yeah, do you want to go first? Sure. Yes. That one first.
So we would like to start with our student representatives. We chose a couple of books in your honor to inspire students in our school to choose leadership, to choose opportunities to represent their school in such a positive way. And both of you have exemplified this. And so the book Soul that we picked for you is called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. And I feel this in my heart when I say that, you know, you're a person that you and I have had numerous conversations in the library. So when I saw this book, it really spoke to me for you. And Audrey, we chose for you the first and youngest poet laureate who was in the inauguration, Amanda Gorman. And this is her newest book called Call Us What We Carry. And she is an advocate for social issues and a young person who inspires all of us. So in her honor and in yours, this is what we chose for you.
So for Andrea, we have, she persisted in sports. So when we heard your stories about your high school endeavors and how, can I say badass you really are? So,
We certainly can't stop you from saying it.
it's not uncivil, is it? Yeah. So this book will be in the K6 library to inspire all our girls. There's a theme here about inspiration. Okay. And for Marnie, we chose How to Find a Fox. This is a beautiful book with lots of nature photography, and it's done by a really cool photographer from Norway, I believe. But it spoke to your love of animals and nature. So I'm sorry, but Anne and Brooke's books did not get here in time. Amazon used to turn it around in one day. Now it's like a month. So Anne, because of your love of theater and your advocacy for inclusion, the book that we've chosen is called Jacob's School Play, starring he, she, and they. And Brooke, yours is going to be the most popular book in the library because it is the new edition of the Star Wars character encyclopedia.
Can I just say this is way better than pie?
Yeah. Yeah, but you have to give it back. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for those thoughtful recognition.
So, yes, please make sure you take a look at the book, and then you do have to return it. Your name is on it as a library borrower now, so they will come and find you. They are actually have their tags for our school libraries on them already. Enjoy them, and then please do return them. Again, our heartfelt thanks to all of you for all the work you do on a daily basis for our district.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to serve up here and to work with such dedicated administrators and staff members from top to bottom in the district, and the students as well, and their families and the community members out there who always give everything they can to the schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this recognition. And as Brooke shared, I just want to acknowledge the number of people who give so much, staff members, teachers, students, volunteers, the energy, the heart, and the commitment that goes into making our district serve our students ever better day by day is just, it's an honor to be part of that team. Thank you.
All right. With that settled, thank you very much again. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion in regards to the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. I do want to note one thing that is different this month on the consent agenda is the instructional calendar, which is being brought up here so that folks at home can see, or those in the room as well. Just to make sure that everyone's taking a look at that and feels comfortable with it. But I don't think we have anything else to say with that.
If
So,
you need
yeah.
any background on the process for that, I'm happy to share.
Okay. Does anyone feel the need to comment or question on this? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. Now we will move on to public comment. Do we have anyone in person signed up to speak? We do not. Okay. I'm looking to see if there is anyone in the Q&A. We do not have any Q&A yet. I will give just a minute or two to see if anyone wants to sign in. Again, so you don't have to type out your entire comment right away. Please just note your full name and location, and then we'll know to wait for you. If not, I'll give it about 3 minutes and then we'll move on.
While we're waiting for public comment, I just want to say that these foxes are really beautiful.
Yeah, my daughter has a fantastic love of foxes. And so, yeah, she will absolutely be checking that book out, I'm sure.
Audrey, are you going to finish that before we go home?
Maybe, we'll have to see. May I add that if anybody wants to find a fox here in Washington State, San Juan Island has a park that is famous for its fox cubs. If you go to American Camp in the spring, you're guaranteed to see some.
So yeah, 20 some years is an amazing amount of service to this district. And so that's wonderful for her. Yes, absolutely. I did want to note in that consent agenda, we approved the hiring of a number of coaches and paras, which I'm always excited to see. So that's fantastic. Nothing is coming on the Q&A right now. So with the board's approval, I'll move on to new business. Okay. We'll move on to new business, starting with Memorandum 2122-23, approval of the update to policy number 6210, management support purchasing authorization and control. This is our second reading. We discussed it at the last workshop. Do I have a motion in regards to this?
I will move to approve.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Andrea, as our policy person, is there anything you want to say about this? or-
No, I think just to summarize those who weren't at the workshop, we are increasing this to $75,000 intentionally. Anything over $75,000 would typically follow a different process for use with federal funds. And so this gives the district flexibility to make, sounds strange, but small dollar purchases quicker without having to wait for a board meeting. It's also lower than the surrounding districts caps, but still provides more flexibility than the previous 15,000.
And was requested by Mr. Leuenberger, our facilities manager.
Yep.
Okay, any questions, any comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving Memorandum 2122-23, approval of the update to policy number 6210, management support purchasing authorization and control, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2122-23, approval of the update to policy number 6210, management support purchasing authorization and control has been approved. We'll move on to Memorandum 2122-24, approval of the update to policy 3520, student fees, fines, charges, update based on passage of several House bills and revised Code of Washington laws. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you like to give a brief description?
This just eliminates some barriers for our students. So typically we withhold certain records or access to specific sports or clubs or experiences determining based on students' fees that they may have on their accounts. And so this eliminates that barrier for students.
Any comments to be made?
Yeah, may I comment? Yeah, I think it makes it a lot easier for students to be part of important groups like clubs and sports, and just eliminating those barriers is really important from a student perspective so that we can have more inclusive, I think, as well, clubs and sports.
Yeah, I agree very much that even if this wasn't a legal requirement to update, I think this would be a fantastic step towards equity for those less advantaged due to socioeconomic situations. Doesn't look like there are any other comments. So all those in favor of approving Memorandum 2122 number 24, approval to update to policy 3520, student fees, fines, charges, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2122 number 24, approval of update to policy 3520, student fees, fines, charges has been approved. We'll move on to Memorandum 2122-25, approval of update to policy 3231, student records. This update is also based on the passage of House Bill and a new RCW. Do I have a motion in regards to this?
Move to approve?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Andrea, do you want to?
Yeah, so this one is specific to student records. So if you have a student who has fines or issues on their accounts, regardless of what district those fines originated from, the district will withhold the release of records. So this could impede a student's ability to have credits transfer from school to school. It could impede the release of their high school transcripts for them to attend university or community college, or even gain employment if they require that. So this eliminates that barrier, allowing the district to release that even with the presence of fines.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I want to thank Ms. Maccaro for making inclusive updates to the language on both of those. Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of Memorandum 2122-25, approval of update to policy 3231, student records, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2122-25, approval of update to policy 3231, student records has been approved. Move on to Memorandum 2122-26, approval of 2022 iPad purchase. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Moshe, could you give a brief update on this?
Yes, this is we replace on a regular basis technology that becomes obsolete. The interesting part of this is that the technology department, specifically Ian Turner, applied for and received Emergency Connectivity Fund grant that's covering 90% of the cost. So thank him for that work and hope the board approves the purchase.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this?
I would just like to note that I'm excited that in the future, this won't have to go through the board.
Mhm.
And that's exciting.
I want to second the appreciation for Ian for going after that grant money, and so much gratitude that that is available for us.
Seems to be all the comments or questions we have on that. All those in favor of passing Memorandum 2122-26, approval of 2022 iPad purchase, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2122-26, approval of 2022 iPad purchase has been approved. We'll move on to our final item of new business, Memorandum 2122-27, approval of the 2022 Chromebook purchase. Do I have a motion in regards to this?
Move to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Dr. Moshe, do you have anything to add?
Again, I'm happy to report that we're replacing approximately 500 devices for students. We will be continuing our one-to-one model for students so that they can have a device individually. And once again, the cost of this through that same emergency connectivity fund is covered at about 80%, which is pretty significant. So a total cost of over $200,000 is only going to cost the district $47,000. So we're really happy about that funding.
Yeah, that's fantastic that Mr. Turner has been able to do those. Again, I echo Marnie's thanks to him for putting in the time and effort to find those grants. Any other comments or questions on this?
As a student who, as you can see, uses the school Chromebooks very often, I can see how this is going to make an impact. And I'm sure my fellow students would appreciate that we're continually updating the Chromebooks and our Chromebook fleet. So this is an important, and especially with the grant money, this is an important step.
I would also like to echo that. I don't really know a time when I'm not using my Chromebook, and I know a majority of students will use it to access Google Classroom and online material. So it's super great that we're updating and making sure we have fully functioning Chromebooks.
Thank you very much for bringing the student perspective on that. I think it's especially important right now when we have a number of students who are out due to close contacts or parental choice, being able to connect with their classrooms right now. So it's fantastic that we're able to do this.
I have a slightly off-topic comment, but I see Mr. Turner is tuned into our meeting, and I would encourage him to check out iGrant 188. And it is a very cool grant that I think he would like. So I'll plug that.
Yeah. And if he was not here before, our thanks very much for the hard work on this and finding those grants. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, then all those in favor of approving Memorandum 2122-27, approval of 2022 Chromebook purchase, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2122-27, approval of 2022 Chromebook purchase has been approved. We'll now move from new business onto our reports and begin with the financial and enrollment report and some one policy note also, I believe that's to Mr. Pullman.
I don't need my glasses if I have a board that big. So this is going to be our report as of August 31st for the financial and as of January 1st for the enrollment. Is that better? Okay. So it's our financial report as of December 31st and our enrollment report as of January 1st. First thing I need to tell you is what the IRS mileage rate is for 2022. It's a board requirement to report that every January, and it's 58.5 cents per mile. So if an employee or a volunteer such as yourself uses your personal vehicle for district business, we would reimburse you at that rate. Start with enrollment. Actually, I'm encouraged about where enrollment is at the moment. It's above budget. We had budgeted 1147. We're at about 1150, almost 1158. And you can see the budget versus last year. Lower left is how many students we have FTE wise. The blue is the students in our ALE program. So that's staying fairly steady in the 70-ish range. And then the red is the basic education. But when we look at this, what we're seeing is that we're holding steady. We're at about 1162 for the month, 1157 for the year. But we haven't seen a drop in the last couple of months. So it's been a very stable enrollment. So even as we've had some students move from ALE into our basic ed in-person program, we've seen to bring more people into the ALE program. So that's been very encouraging. And it's a trend we normally don't see this time of year in a typical year. Normally we start to decline as we move through the school year. So very promising. If we look at the timeline, we're 4 months into our fiscal year, which starts in September. So we are about a third of the way through the year. And we look at our revenue and expenditures in comparison to that timeline. And we can see that our revenue is at about 31%, which is a little lower than we've seen in past years. And I can explain why in a moment. And our expenditures are a little over 31.6%. So we've expended a little more than we brought in, but it's very similar and it's right in line. If you look at the lower right-hand corner with kind of the traditional pattern you'd see, and if we go back to 18, 19, 17, 18, those times, you'll see that we were in that, mid 33 range for both of those at that particular time. So if we look at trends, it's right kind of in line what I would expect for this time of the year. Revenue normally would be a little bit higher, and there's a reason why it's lower in this particular year. We have much more revenue from the federal government with the American Rescue Plan, the ESSER funds, et cetera. And unlike state dollars that are metered out on a monthly basis, federal dollars are claimed the month after you spend them. So there's always a lag time between the expenditure and the revenue. So the fact that our federal funds are twice as large as they normally would be, that has kind of pushed back that revenue stream. So we'll see it pick up at the end of the year, but not necessarily as we move through the year. So I expect revenue to be a little lower every month as we move through the year until we get to the end than what we would normally see. And it just has to do with claiming those federal funds. And the lower left corner kind of also identifies that if you look at the the four columns on the left, you can see that they're a little lower this year, and that's the local funds. So it's money coming from the buildings, money coming from our levies, funds from the state based upon enrollment. Those are all lower than we would see in a normal year, but the federal dollars are higher. And even though we claim them later, they're still substantially more than we see in a normal year. So that kind of explains why we see revenue a little lower than what we would anticipate normally at this time. But we look at total expenditures. This is with encumbrances, so it's all contracts through the remainder of the year. We are at about $19.6 million out of our budget, which is about 88%. So we still have a 12% capacity within the budget to pick up things that are not known at this time or encumbered and those type things. And then the right is just the spending pattern. This is our expenditure on a monthly basis, and the yellow line is the current year. And you can see we started in September higher than we normally would have, but that's to be expected following time that we were not actually in school. And there were, supplies, et cetera, that we had to pick up, except things. But we're very similar to that blue pattern line, but that goes back to 1819. So you can see the expenditures aren't really that much larger than they would anticipate based upon the inflation of several years. And so I expect that we'll follow that blue line much more than we will the black or red line, which were the years that we were out in totally a different spending pattern in those particular years due to the type of instruction that was going on. And this is just a breakdown that gives you an idea of how we spend our money. So you can look at the right and you can see that between the certificated, classified, and employee benefits, we're spending about 88% of our budget on employees. The other 12% is the supplies, services, et cetera. And the left side gives you a comparison to previous years. And I do want to point out the one that says classified salaries, it looks so much higher than last year. Last year was an anomaly. We actually reduced classified staff because we weren't in the buildings and didn't need all of the different services, whether it was food service, transportation, classified staff working with kids because they weren't actually here. So if we look at the blue line and compare it to the yellow line, you see it's just slightly above. So it gives you an idea of that change. Budget status report. This is a breakdown of our revenue and our expenditures. The top part is the revenue at about $6.673 million. And you can see how much of that is from our local levies, how much in the local support non-tax is school generated funds. The state general purpose is basic education predominantly based on enrollment, and then special purpose is all those other programs such as special education that is funded based on enrollment, and then the federal grant dollars. And then the bottom, it's broken down by program. So it gives you an idea of how we're spending our money in our programs. The one you see this year that you normally would not see is program 10 federal special. That's going to be the ESSER funds and the American Rescue Plan, CARES Act, all the different federal funds that are coming through. So basically we have a fund balance of about $4.8 million as of December 31st. And then this is just a balance sheet. it lists assets and liabilities. So you can see it's going to end up with the same fund balance, but it tells us where are our funds, how much cash on hand is the local Heritage Bank, cash on hand with the county treasurer, warrants outstandings that we've issued haven't been cashed yet, and those types of things. So it gives you an idea of, where our assets are, and then what revenue or what liabilities we have. And they're pretty much all going to be payroll related. Very often you don't see anything else in that category. And then just if it's a restricted fund or not, if it's ASB, it's going to be for that purpose only, debt service, same thing, et cetera. We do have other funds, so quickly look at those. First is Capital Projects Fund. We began the school year with about $2 million in that account. We've received local levy money of about $932,000. We have spent about $713,000, and there's quite a bit encumbered for other projects that we haven't finished yet. So we currently have a balance of about 2.2 million. Debt service has very little money in there. The only revenue was actually a transfer from Capital Projects Fund, and that's to pay a long-term debt for the energy retrofits we did to the building. And I believe we have about 3 years left on that term. So it will be gone fairly soon. But again, a reminder that the cost of that is being reimbursed by the savings in expenditures in the utility costs. So it actually didn't cost the district money because we're saving, more than $100,000 a year in energy costs to offset the money we're paying for the loan. ASB started with about 53,000 and they're currently up to about almost $65,000. So they're growing a fund balance, which is very positive after last spring. Transportation Vehicle Fund basically has no money in it. We have, and that's okay because we purchased 2 school buses. They are here, we're using them, and everybody's excited about the big buses. And we will get a payment for depreciation from OSBI in August, and we'll then talk about another purchase plan for the following year. But again, it's not a fund it is funded directly by reimbursement for the buses that we buy. And that's why we continue with that process. And then the Private Purpose Trust Fund has about 787,000 in it. And again, the majority of that was donations by 2 wonderful benefactors, and it's used for scholarships for kids. And the way it's set up is we can only use the interest on an annual basis to give out to maintain the principal. So it will go on as a bequest for eternity, basically. Any other questions I could answer for you? And there are more detail if you're like more numbers, on the next pages and all those type of things, but.
I just appreciate, as always, how clearly you present this information. I know that we're just getting a little bit beneath the surface, and it gets incredibly Byzantine beneath that. But I appreciate you making it so very clear and precise for us.
No, it's my pleasure because you're ultimately responsible. So it's helpful if you understand where we are and
Absolutely.
if there's anything to be concerned about.
Yeah. And I say this frequently, but I always do appreciate that encumbered scale so that we know what we have to work with going forwards when we're thinking about these large purchases that come up. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Pullman. We'll move on to the student board report. Paul and Audrey. Yeah, you should be able to share from there.
So this is our student rep update for January 26th. It's been a while since we were able to do our last update, so hopefully we'll be able to cover everything. We were able to visit the elementary school, and we got a good look at the gardens, and we were able to talk to some of the students who were visiting the gardens as part of their extra activities, and we actually made some garden burgers or garden wraps. So we were able to experience that too.
Okay, so there's a lot going on with the 7-8 middle school campus along with the ASB. They recently had a MLK video that was put on by the Association of Washington Student Leaders. So they watched a presentation, and then there's also a discussion on how to be more involved in the community, social justice, and how to honor Black History Month. So I thought that was really fascinating. They're also had round 2 of iReady testing and comparing and setting targets with the fall and winter test scores. ASB is putting on a Valentine's Day week with different events to celebrate kindness and friendship and just kind of bring back some school spirit. Something I'm super excited about is new class representatives for the House of Reps. The Houses of Reps is a type of student government at the middle school. So as part of the democratic process, they're electing new class reps for the semester. Another thing going on within student government is 8th graders are finding ways to raise student voice for 7th graders and discovering new leadership positions. So just all together, the 7th and 8th have an equal say. Planners for pickles. This is super cool. So students, by using their planner and exercising time management and functioning skills, they have a chance to win a free sandwich at Pickles. So super cool collaboration. First Wednesday classes also just ended. These classes focused on building skills and responsibility for the workforce and future classes. And they kind of just assessed with a teacher and using a rubric, kind of what they got out of these classes and assessed how they did. There's also a club collaboration with the Queer and Trans Club. Hopefully a LGBTQ plus club is forming at the middle school, along with chess competition. So really cool clubs are popping up there.
Well, this kind of makes the high school ASB look like maybe we should do more. So leadership just finished their projects, and they had some really interesting projects. I won't get into the specifics, but they did group work, and our ASB hasn't had enough time to meet, so we haven't been able to accomplish much, but we're hoping that we can meet some of our goals and do more, hopefully in the next couple months. But wow, that the middle school really is challenging us a little bit. We got to do more. So the semester's wrapping up. This is finals week. Audrey and I have had finals today and tomorrow. So that's what's going on. It's certainly putting a lot of stress on the student body, but we're hoping that we will have a chance to rest this weekend. And our second yearbook turn-in was this Monday. So
now on to clubs at the high school. This morning, I got a super cool finals goodie bag from the Mental Health Awareness Club and the Random Acts of Kindness Club. I have a nice band that says "We Care." So that was just really nice to walk into school and have something to brighten up my day before taking a big test. In Model UN, we are prepping to go to Seattle Mun, which is one of our conferences that's organized by Model UN Northwest. So we'll be meeting with other students to discuss diplomacy. I'm actually in Security Council as St. Vincent. So I'm really looking forward to that. The Queer and Trans Club is organizing a presentation to present to staff to find more ways to be more supportive of queer and trans students. And they're also collaborating with the middle school on forming an LGBTQ+ club.
So the NSBMA is the National Student Board Member Association, and that was founded on the 16th. And that's bringing together students from across the country who are part of school boards and advocating for student reps and board members across the country. So hopefully we're looking to establish relationships with the different state associations and advocate for legislative goals and to cooperate with other student members across the country to accomplish more. And it's modeled after the California Student Board Member Association, and they have a really good system. So we're getting organized. We had our first organizational meeting, so we're getting going.
So yesterday, Brooke and I had the opportunity to attend a meeting with the staff of Senator Cantwell. It was organized by the Washington State School Directors Association as part of kind of the Day on the Hill that was supposed to be part of the National School Board Association, but that conference, unfortunately, we decided to cancel our trip because of COVID. So in this meeting, we talked with one of the staff members on support for special education programs funding, along with talking about connectivity and digital equity, which really matched up with our Chromebooks purchase that we just passed. And we school board members in this meeting discussed ensuring that students across the state have the Wi-Fi and technology to support the demands of virtual learning, and also having the Senate understand that if we were to pivot over to virtual learning, which we're not hoping to do, that we can't just do it, and we need to make sure that we have the proper equipment to do it. So they're calling for a $300 million for the Emergency Connectivity Fund. There's also the McKinney-Vento Education of Homeless and Youth Assistance Act. And this is a federal law that ensures immediate enrollment and educational stability for homeless youth and students. So they're just calling for an increase of funding for the state to distribute funding to serve homeless children. There's also immense support for the Universal Free Schools Lunch Program, which I know I greatly appreciate at our district, and also destigmatizing free and reduced lunch. Finally, the last thing we talked about was the Impact Aid, which is the Department of Education's Impact Aid program. They're calling for support for full funding. This act supports Indigenous communities and military communities. Brooke, do you want to add anything on behalf of the meeting?
You covered everything I was going to say in my board report.
Oh, and we also have a meeting with Senator Murray tomorrow to cover similar topics and issues.
I will note that the senator's staffer was really appreciative of the opportunity to hear from students, and that's always a huge deal. And Audrey did speak up on behalf of this district and students across Washington, so that was great.
Thank you,
yeah.
And if any members of the board have anything that they would like us to include in our next board report, we can focus on looking into that and report back, because that's an important part of the two-way. Our job is two-way. So
Thank you. Wonderful reports.
I definitely want to hear how it goes at Model UN. And I'd love to keep getting updates about that new club, the LGBTQ+ club at the middle school.
Definitely.
I just wanted to call some attention to that program for pickles, planning for pickles, as one of these wonderful opportunities for the district and the community to work together. So thank you to Pickles Deli for partnering on that and Thank you to Ms. Phillips and the middle school for reaching out to them or getting in touch with them and making that happen. I love the idea that the High School Queer and Trans Club is comfortable enough to speak to staff, and that staff and the administration there are comfortable enough to accept that input. I think that speaks wonders to the community that we're trying to build in the South Whidbey School District. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to give some props to these two here for being part of starting the National School Board, Student School Board Members Association, that taking the goals that we gave this board of reaching out beyond ourselves, taking it to heart and charging forward with it. So thank you. I was just checking to see if there were any other questions or comments for that. So yeah, on to the superintendent report. Dr. Moshe.
Tough act to follow. So I want to give you some updates on COVID, of course, but before we get to that, I have some items that I just want to call your attention to. And one is that, so our teachers, and you'll see about attendance, our teacher and staff attendance has actually we've been able to handle the folks who are out. We've had to scramble in some cases, and other teachers have stepped in to cover classes. And even beyond that, our teachers are going the extra mile again, because we have students at home who can't be at school. So they're using synchronous learning, asynchronous learning through video with those students, as well as keeping their Google Classroom up to date, again, for students who are at home and students who are in school. And it really is extra effort. It's a lot of extra effort. So really appreciate the work they're doing. Today we had a mid-year half-day training with all staff on equity with the Hooks group. Again, all of our staff were engaged, and it was a very, there's a lot of input from staff, and I think they got a lot out of it. The other reminder is that we do have a board seat open. I'm sure board members will talk about that. Hoping to get some applications from people in the Clinton area. That's open till February 18th. And along the lines of advocacy, the superintendent submitted a letter also to our state representatives in support of funding for CTE. So there's a bill on the floor promoting that if a student, and the real example is if a student this year goes to Snow Isle for half the day, that FTE goes to Snow Isle, and it's out of, not to the district. And this would actually increase funding to 1.5 FTE, so that students who go to Snow Isle gets the FTE and the district gets the FTE. So hoping that that passes. So those are the updates outside of COVID. Now I'll share my screen with you. So I called it a superintendent's update because there is more to life than just COVID. But this really focuses on what's happening with COVID. So here is the graph of Island County and where we are. It is believed that we have peaked. The good news for our district is that our attendance is actually stabilized. We have more again in school this week than we did last week. And we, as I said, are able to cover for our teachers who are out. People are out for a variety of reasons, not all due to COVID. You can check the dashboard. But again, Emmy Atwood and the nursing staff and the health staff have really stepped up since the holiday break, our return from holiday break. Feels like it's an eternity ago, but it was only a couple of weeks. They did over 1,000 tests That's inclusive of our athletes. About 120 positives, but most of those are from contracting it outside of school. So they didn't bring it into school. They stayed home because they were ill. So that's really good news. Again, in school, we're managing, we're maintaining, and most importantly, we are maintaining our priorities. Health and safety of students and staff, first priority. The safety protocols are essential. And, wearing more than one mask seems to be the way now. I said earlier to folks that I had the opportunity to visit the dentist yesterday and didn't have to wear a mask because she was wearing 3 plus a plastic shield. And she said, because of that, I could take mine off. It's just unbelievable. However, we know that the science is telling us that it's working. Masks work. Encouraging vaccinations for all who are eligible. And we're continuing to follow all of the guidance that were provided, which changes on a daily basis. We received another change today. And that is actually relaxing a bit the rules about athletics, because that was really sapping all of the testing kits, because we were required to test athletes 3 times a week, regardless of vaccination status, regardless of positivity. And now it is once on a game day. But they've increased mask wearing again for athletes and coaches and so on. So again, we keep up with the guidance and it changes, it seems, on a daily basis. And we are halfway through the school year. The other thing I want to encourage is transportation is lacking enough subs now. We have 1 sub. So our transportation to athletics is probably going to be through private carriers or shuttles that can be driven by coaches. And our field trips are cut back to only what can happen between the arrival of the morning bus run and the departure of the afternoon bus run at this time, because we simply don't have subs. So encouraging anyone who is interested in a lovely part-time job that they can be trained for to apply to be a bus driver, and we provide the training, and we would welcome those applications. That's it for the superintendent's report tonight. If you have any questions, need information, I'm happy to share maybe something I didn't think of that you want more information about.
I just wanted to echo your thanks to the staff from every position in the school district. The way that they've been stepping up here in this district and around the country and the world has just been amazing. We sort of come to expect it from teachers and educational staff, and sometimes that makes us lose sight of the fact that they're doing something extraordinary. So I just wanted to give another shout out to them, in particular the nursing staff. As you said, they've done a huge amount of tests in the last couple of weeks, and the time that we came to get ours, the person on staff was still really attentive and upbeat and everything we would expect them to be, despite the strain. So just an amazing job by all involved. Again, I want to echo the call for anyone in the Clinton area who is interested in board service. You get t-shirts and mugs and books. Yes. And more importantly, you get to help guide the direction of the district. And I have found it a very rewarding job. And so I encourage anyone who lives in the Clinton area, this area of Clinton that is specifically for that seat, which if you live in the Clinton area or that south of Langley near Clinton area and you're not sure, you can email the district office and they will let you know if you are in the correct area. Didn't have any questions, so thank you very much. So we'll move on to board comments and reports. Anything from anyone?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank our trainer who came from the Technology Access Foundation at our last meeting and offered an ally training to our board and administration. David Goldenkrantz. He just, I thought, did an extraordinary job engaging us with interesting, important content. And I particularly appreciated he referenced another trainer by the name of Leticia Nieto, and her work is just extraordinary. So I was grateful to be reminded of her work, and she has a wonderful book, Beyond Inclusion, Beyond Empowerment, that I think is just a must for the library of anyone interested in understanding systemic oppression and ways to grow regardless of identity. Thank you.
As I said earlier, Audrey stole my report and did a fantastic job with it. So I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.